For literally centuries, shepherds in southeastern Turkey walk their flocks over a sun-baked hill, noticing some strange carved stones sticking out of the ground. But they had no idea what was lying just beneath their feet. A secret so profound, it would completely rip up the textbook on early human history. That secret has a name, Göbekli Tepe, and its discovery changes just about everything we thought we knew.
Okay, so the first thing you have to wrap your head around with Göbekli Tepe is its almost unbelievable age. We are talking about a massive, sophisticated temple complex built 12,000 years ago. This isn't just another old ruin. This is something that completely resets the timeline of civilization.
And to really put that number in perspective, just look at this. Göbekli Tepe is literally twice as old as Stonehenge. It was already ancient history by the time the Egyptians were even thinking about building the Great Pyramids. We're talking about a structure that predates writing, the wheel, and even pottery by thousands of years. It's just mind-boggling.
So how does something this monumental stay hidden for so long? Well, for most of modern history, its true meaning was just buried, waiting for the right person to come along and recognize it for what it truly was.
The site gets its modern name from the shape of the hill, Göbekli Tepe, which is Turkish for Potbelly Hill. But it's the nickname that really hits you, the 0 point of history. And why? Because it's the oldest known large-scale, man-made place of worship anywhere on Earth, period.
Now, archaeologists actually noted the site way back in 1963, but they kind of dismissed it. It wasn't until 1994 that a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt saw the stone fragments and had this incredible realization. This wasn't just some medieval cemetery. It was something far, far older. It still took another couple of decades for the rest of the world to catch up and for it to be recognized by UNESCO.
So what did they actually build on that hill all those millennia ago? Look, this wasn't just a couple of rocks stacked on top of each other. This was an unbelievably sophisticated piece of architecture. You have to forget any images of primitive mud huts. This was, for all intents and purposes, a Stone Age cathedral.
What we've found so far are these multiple, large, circular enclosures that were dug right into the bedrock. We're not talking crude construction here. The walls had benches made of polished limestone. And get this, the floors were made of terrazzo, a type of polished concrete. That's a hugely complex technique for any era, let alone 12,000 years ago. And then, of course, there are the pillars. The most iconic things at the site are these absolutely massive, T-shaped monoliths. But here's the twist. They aren't just support beams. Carvings on some of them clearly show arms, hands, and belts. They're meant to be stylized human figures, maybe gods, maybe ancestors, towering over you, and each one weighing up to 20 tons.
But the pillars aren't blank. They're a canvas, covered in reliefs that tell a story. One researcher described it perfectly. He called it a Stone Age bestiary, and it brings the world of these ancient people to life.
When you look closely, you see this whole menagerie carved into the stone. There are foxes, snakes, and wild boars, but also more dangerous predators like lions and vultures. And mixed in with all the animals are these abstract symbols, hinting at a really complex spiritual world, a worldview deeply connected to the power and danger of nature.
Okay, so we've got this incredible ancient temple, but what makes it truly revolutionary? To really get that, we have to rewind a bit and look at the story of civilization that pretty much all of us were taught in school.
You know the traditional story, right? It was always presented as this neat, linear path. Step 1, humans invent farming. Step 2, we settle down in villages. Step 3, we have a food surplus so people can specialize. And only then, at the very end of that process, do we get complex religion and have the resources to build big temples.
This was the accepted model. It made perfect sense. But Göbekli Tepe throws a massive wrench into all of it, because it forces us to ask a shocking question. What if the people who organized and built this monumental structure hadn't even invented farming yet?
And that question right there is precisely why Göbekli Tepe didn't just add a new chapter to our history. It forced us to rip out the old pages and start writing a completely new story.
See, the old assumption was simple. You need a settled agricultural society to organize and build something this massive. But the new reality, the one proven by Göbekli Tepe, is that it was built by hunter-gatherers. There is zero evidence of domesticated plants or animals at the oldest levels of the site. None. This discovery completely flips the old model on its head. The new theory goes like this.
What if the shared desire to build a sacred place came first, and the massive logistical problem of feeding hundreds of workers for this project is what actually pushed people to figure out how to domesticate grains and manage animals? In this new model, the temple isn't a result of civilization, it's the catalyst that creates it.
It boils the entire debate down to one simple, powerful question. For decades, we were absolutely sure the answer was the farmer, but Göbekli Tepe suggests it might have been the priest, or at least that shared spiritual drive that actually gave birth to the modern world.
Now, for everything Göbekli Tepe has taught us, it is still shrouded in just as much mystery. And honestly, the questions it raises are just as fascinating as the answers it's given us.
I mean, we know they were hunter-gatherers, but what kind of society could organize a project on this scale? How did they get different bands or tribes to work together? The truth is, the details of how they lived and who they were are completely lost to time.
And then there are the logistics. Just try to imagine quarrying, moving, and standing up 20-ton pillars using nothing but flint tools and pure human muscle. There were no wheels, no metal, no domesticated animals to help. The level of engineering and sheer willpower is almost impossible to comprehend.
But you know, maybe the biggest mystery of all is why they stopped. After more than 1,000 years of use, around 8,000 BCE, the people of Göbekli Tepe intentionally buried their masterpiece. They backfilled the entire site with tons of earth and debris. Why? Was it a ritual? Did their beliefs change? We just don't know.
In the end, Göbekli Tepe is this powerful reminder that history isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's a story that we are really only just beginning to learn how to read. The human drive to create, to believe, and to build something bigger than ourselves is so much deeper and more ancient than we ever gave ourselves credit for.
And it leaves you with this one final, nagging thought. For centuries, we were so sure we knew how civilization began. Göbekli Tepe proved us completely wrong. So, what other massive secrets are still out there, buried under a hill somewhere, just waiting to be found? What else about our own story do we have wrong?